Abandoned fighting dog was left to die in the snow. What this woman did next had the town in tears. The wind howled across the vast Montana plains, whipping against the weathered walls of Daisy's farmhouse. A lone figure, she braved the biting cold, her trusty old pickup truck crunching through the snow-covered dirt road. Daisy, a woman weathered by time and solitude, was returning from her weekly trip into town, her heart heavy with the usual loneliness that settled in once the bustle of the grocery store faded away. As she rounded a bend, a flash of brown caught her eye. Pulled over, she squinted through the swirling snow, her breath fogging the windshield. There, huddled beneath a scraggly pine, was a dog. A pit bull, its coat matted and muddied, its body thin and shivering. Daisy, despite a lifetime spent wary of strangers, both human and animal, felt a tug in her heart. She cautiously approached the dog, her voice a soft murmur in the wind. "Hey there, fella. You lost." The dog didn't move, its eyes, dark and wary, fixed on her. Daisy noticed a limp, a gash on its leg, and a general air of neglect that spoke of hardship. She reached out a gloved hand, slowly, gently. "It's all right. I won't hurt you." The dog flinched, a ripple of fear passing through its tense muscles. Daisy, undeterred, retreated a few steps, then reached into her truck for a can of tuna she always kept for stray cats. She placed it on the ground, a safe distance away, and retreated again. "Here you go," she said softly. "Something to warm you up." The dog hesitated, its instincts battling its hunger. Finally, with a cautious glance at Daisy, it crept forward, snatched the tuna, and devoured it in a matter of seconds. Daisy, her heart aching for the creature's obvious hunger and fear, knew she couldn't leave it there to face the harsh winter night. She reached into her truck again, this time for an old blanket. She spread it on the ground, creating a makeshift bed. "Come on," she coaxed. "It's warmer here." The dog, as if sensing her sincerity, slowly approached, its tail giving a tentative wag. It settled onto the blanket, its body still trembling, but its eyes holding a glimmer of gratitude. Daisy, her heart filled with a warmth she hadn't felt in years, knew she had just made a commitment. This dog, this creature abandoned and alone, had found a home at least for the night, and perhaps, just perhaps, she had found a companion, a reason to face the long Montana winters with a little less loneliness. The first rays of dawn painted the snow-covered landscape in hues of pink and gold. Daisy, awakened by the rooster's crow, peered out the window, her gaze immediately drawn to the barn where she had settled the dog for the night. She bundled up in her warmest coat and ventured out, a mix of apprehension and anticipation fluttering in her chest. Approaching the barn, she heard a soft whimper. The dog, huddled in the corner, looked up with wary eyes, its body still trembling from the cold and fear. Daisy's heart ached for the creature's vulnerability. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice a gentle reassurance. "Did you sleep all right?" The dog didn't respond, but its tail gave a tentative wag, a small gesture that spoke volumes to Daisy. She entered the barn, keeping a respectful distance, and placed a bowl of warm milk and some leftover chicken scraps on the floor. "Here you go," she said. "Something to warm your belly." The dog hesitated, its instincts still battling its hunger. But the aroma of the food proved too tempting, and it cautiously approached the bowl, lapping up the milk and devouring the chicken with gusto. Daisy watched, her heart warming at the sight. She noticed the dog's injuries more closely now, the deep gash on its leg, the patches of missing fur, the scars that crisscrossed its body like a roadmap of past suffering. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" she murmured, her voice filled with compassion. The dog, as if sensing her empathy, looked up at her, its dark eyes filled with a mixture of fear and gratitude. Daisy, emboldened by the connection, took a step closer, her hand outstretched. "It's all right," she said softly. "I'm here to help." The dog flinched but didn't retreat. Daisy slowly lowered her hand, letting the dog sniff her fingers, get used to her scent, her presence. After a moment, she gently stroked the dog's head, her touch light and reassuring. The dog leaned into her touch, its body relaxing slightly, its tail wagging a little more confidently. Daisy felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this creature, so clearly scarred by its past, could learn to trust again, could find solace in her care. She spent the rest of the morning tending to the dog's wounds, cleaning the gash on its leg, applying a soothing ointment. The dog, though initially hesitant, seemed to appreciate her care, its whimpers subsiding into soft sighs of relief. As the day wore on, Daisy found herself drawn to the dog's quiet presence. She sat with it in the barn, talking softly, sharing stories of her life, her loneliness, her love for the vast Montana landscape. The dog listened intently, its head resting on its paws, its eyes fixed on her with an unwavering gaze. By nightfall, a tentative bond had formed between them. Daisy, her heart filled with a newfound purpose, knew she couldn't abandon this creature. She would care for it, protect it, give it the love and security it so desperately needed. And in return, she hoped she would find companionship, a loyal friend to share her life with. The next morning, Daisy awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. She had a mission: to get the dog the proper care it needed. After a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, she loaded the now somewhat trusting pit bull into her truck, making a makeshift bed in the passenger seat with an old quilt. The drive into town was quiet, the only sound the hum of the engine and the occasional whimper from her new companion. Daisy, her gaze flitting between the road and the dog, felt a pang of protectiveness. She was determined to find help for this creature, to give it a fighting chance. Her first stop was the local animal shelter. She marched into the small, slightly cluttered office, her determination evident in her stride. The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes but a hesitant smile, greeted her. "Can I help you, ma'am?" "I found a dog," Daisy stated. "Injured. Needs a vet." "Oh." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. "What kind of dog?" "Pit bull, I reckon." The change in the receptionist's demeanor was subtle but undeniable. Her shoulders stiffened, and her eyes flickered towards the door behind Daisy, as if seeking an escape route. "I see," she stammered. "Well, we're a bit full at the moment. And, with pit bulls, there are certain, procedures." Daisy, her temper rising, leaned forward. "Procedures? What procedures?" "The dog's hurt. Needs a vet." The receptionist, flustered, began to explain about liability, breed restrictions, and a lengthy quarantine process. Daisy, her patience wearing thin, cut her off. "Look," she said, her voice firm. "This dog needs help. Now, are you going to help me? Or am I wasting my time here?" The receptionist, clearly uncomfortable, wrung her hands. I'm sorry, ma'am. There's really nothing we can do right now. Perhaps you could try calling around to some private vets." Daisy, her frustration boiling over, turned and stormed out of the shelter, the bell above the door jingling angrily in her wake. She slammed the truck door, startling the dog, who whimpered softly. "Don't you worry, fella," she muttered, her voice laced with anger and determination. "I won't let them ignore you. We'll find someone who cares." She drove through town, stopping at every vet clinic she could find. But the response was the same everywhere. "Pit bull. Sorry, no room. Liability concerns. Try somewhere else." Daisy, her anger now mixed with despair, felt tears prickling her eyes. She pulled over to the side of the road, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. She looked at the dog, its eyes filled with a quiet sadness that mirrored her own. "I won't give up on you," she whispered, a fierce determination hardening her gaze. "I promise." She turned the truck around, heading back towards her farm. She would care for this dog herself. Damn the shelter and their prejudice. She would find a way. This dog, this creature who had already endured so much, deserved a chance. And Daisy, the woman who had always felt so alone, had found a cause, a purpose, a reason to fight. Back at the farm, Daisy settled the dog in the barn, making a cozy bed of hay and blankets. She named him Hope, a beacon in the face of the rejection they had faced. Hope, despite his injuries, seemed to be settling in, his tail wagging tentatively as Daisy brought him warm broth and scraps of meat. Determined to find Hope proper medical care, Daisy remembered a small clinic on the outskirts of the neighboring town, a place she'd heard whispers of, a haven for animals, run by a woman who cared more for creatures than for profit. The next morning, with Hope settled in the passenger seat, they set off on the longer journey. The clinic was a modest building, nestled amongst rolling hills, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the town shelter. As Daisy stepped inside, the air was filled with the comforting sense of hay and antiseptic. A calico cat dozed on the reception desk, unfazed by the comings and goings of patients. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile greeted Daisy. "Welcome. You must be Daisy. I'm Dr. Carter." Daisy, surprised that the vet herself had greeted her, felt a flicker of hope rekindle. She explained Hope's situation, the abandonment, the injuries, the shelter's refusal. Dr. Carter listened patiently, her gaze occasionally shifting to Hope, who was now cowering slightly behind Daisy's legs. "Let's have a look at him," she said softly, leading them to an examination room. Hope, hesitant at first, eventually allowed Dr. Carter to examine him. As she gently probed his wounds, her brow furrowed. "This isn't just neglect, Daisy," she said, her voice grave. "These are old injuries, poorly healed. There are signs of abuse." Daisy felt a wave of anger and sadness wash over her. "Abuse?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Dr. Carter nodded. "I've seen this before. Unfortunately, dogfighting. They use other dogs to train the fighters, bait dogs they call them. Often injured, sometimes killed." Daisy's stomach churned. She looked at Hope, his eyes filled with a deep sadness that resonated with the vet's words. She knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Oh, Hope," she murmured, tears welling up in her eyes. "What they did to you." Dr. Carter placed a comforting hand on Daisy's shoulder. "He's lucky you found him, Daisy. He's safe now." She proceeded to clean and bandage Hope's wounds, her touch gentle and reassuring. "He'll need rest, antibiotics, and a lot of love," she explained. "But he's a strong boy. He'll pull through." Daisy, her heart filled with gratitude for this compassionate woman, thanked Dr. Carter profusely. As they left the clinic, Hope seemed to walk a little taller, his tail wagging with a newfound confidence. Daisy knew they had found an ally, someone who saw beyond breed and prejudice, someone who recognized the inherent worth of a creature in need. The days that followed were a mix of hope and heartache. Hope, under Dr. Carter's expert care and Daisy's unwavering love, began to heal physically. His wounds slowly closed. His limp became less pronounced, and his coat started to regain its shine. But the emotional scars, the deep-seated fear and mistrust, lingered. Dr. Carter, during her regular visits to the farm, observed Hope closely. She noticed his flinching at sudden movements, his cowering when Daisy raised her hand to pet him, the way his eyes darted nervously around, as if constantly anticipating danger. "Daisy," she said one afternoon, her voice gentle but serious, "I think we need to consider the possibility that Hope's trauma runs deeper than we initially thought." Daisy, her heart sinking, nodded. "I've seen it too, document. He's skittish, always on edge, like he's expecting to be hurt." Dr. Carter explained that Hope's behavior was consistent with dogs that had been used in dogfighting rings. "The constant abuse, the forced fighting, it leaves a lasting impact," she said. "They learn to associate humans with pain and fear." Daisy, her anger rising, clenched her fists. "Those monsters," she muttered, her voice filled with rage. "How could anyone be so cruel?" Dr. Carter, her expression somber, explained the grim reality of dogfighting. "It's a brutal world, Daisy, driven by greed and a complete disregard for life. These dogs are seen as commodities, tools to be used and discarded. She went on to describe the horrific training methods used in dogfighting rings, the forced fights, the isolation, the deliberate infliction of pain to increase aggression. Daisy listened, her stomach churning, her heart aching for Hope and the countless other dogs who had endured such horrors. Dr. Carter then revealed that she had found further evidence of Hope's past during her examinations. Faint scars on his chest and legs, consistent with bite marks, suggested he had been used as a bait dog, a helpless victim thrown into the ring to train the fighting dogs. Daisy, tears streaming down her face, knelt beside Hope, wrapping her arms around him. "Oh, my sweet boy," she sobbed, her voice filled with anguish. "What they did to you." Hope, as if sensing her distress, licked away her tears, his rough tongue a source of unexpected comfort. He leaned into her embrace, his body trembling slightly, but his eyes holding a glimmer of trust and affection. In that moment, Daisy's resolve hardened. She would not let Hope's past define his future. She would shower him with love, patience, and understanding, helping him to heal, to overcome his trauma, to rediscover the joy of being a dog. She would be his sanctuary, his safe haven, his advocate in a world that had shown him so much cruelty. Life on the farm took on a new rhythm, a gentle cadence dictated by Hope's needs and Daisy's unwavering commitment. Mornings began with slow walks in the fields, Daisy matching her pace to Hope's hesitant steps. She talked to him softly, describing the sunrise, the birdsong, the scent of pine needles carried on the crisp air. Hope, initially hesitant to venture far from the safety of the barn, gradually began to explore his surroundings. He'd sniff at wildflowers, chase butterflies, and roll in the long grass, his tentative movements slowly giving way to a playful exuberance. Afternoons were spent in quiet companionship. Daisy would read aloud from her worn copy of Walden, her voice a soothing balm in the quiet farmhouse. Hope would lie at her feet, his head resting on his paws, his eyes following her every move. Sometimes, he'd nudge her hand with his wet nose, seeking reassurance, a gentle touch. Evenings brought a comforting routine. Daisy would cook simple meals, the aroma of stew or freshly baked bread filling the house. Hope, his appetite returning, would eat with gusto, his tail wagging appreciatively. After dinner, they'd sit by the fireplace, the crackling flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. Daisy would brush Hope's coat, the rhythmic strokes a source of comfort for both of them. As the weeks turned into months, Hope's physical wounds healed completely. The scars remained, a testament to his past suffering. But his body grew stronger, his movements more fluid, his eyes brighter. But the emotional healing, the restoration of trust, and the overcoming of fear was a slower, more delicate process. Daisy, with infinite patience and unwavering love, guided Hope through his anxieties. She'd anticipate his triggers, avoiding sudden movements, speaking softly, offering reassurance with every touch. She taught him basic commands: sit, stay, come, using positive reinforcement, rewarding him with praise and gentle strokes. Slowly, Hope began to respond. He'd hesitantly obey her commands, his tail wagging tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. He'd lean into her touch, seeking affection, his body relaxing into her embrace. He'd greet her with excited barks and joyful leaps when she returned from her errands in town. One day, as they walked through the fields, a flock of geese took flight, their honking echoing across the vast expanse. Hope, startled by the sudden commotion, flinched and cowered. Daisy, anticipating his fear, knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around him, speaking soothingly. "It's all right, Hope," she murmured, her voice a calming presence in his fear. "They're just birds. They won't hurt you." Hope, his body trembling, gradually calmed down, his breathing slowing, his eyes meeting Daisy's with a newfound trust. He licked her face, a gesture of gratitude and affection. Daisy, her heart swelling with love for this resilient creature, knew that Hope was healing, that he was learning to trust, to love, to live again. Their bond, forged in compassion and shared vulnerability, had become a lifeline for both of them, a testament to the transformative power of kindness and unwavering love. News travels fast in small towns, and word of Daisy's new companion, a pit bull no less, soon spread through the community. Reactions were mixed, ranging from curiosity to concern, and unfortunately to outright prejudice. Some neighbors, those who had known Daisy for years, stopped by with well-meaning but cautious inquiries. "Heard you got yourself a dog, Daisy," they'd say, their eyes darting towards the barn where Hope was usually kept. "Hope he's a friendly one." Daisy, sensing their apprehension, would assure them that Hope was gentle and well-behaved. She'd invite them to meet him, but most declined, their smiles strained, their excuses flimsy. Others were less subtle in their disapproval. Old Man Hemmings, known for his gruff demeanor and rigid views, cornered Daisy at the post office one morning. "Pit bull, he grumbled, his eyes narrowed. "Dangerous breed, those. Unpredictable. Ought to be banned, if you ask me." Daisy, her temper flaring, stood her ground. "Hope's not dangerous," she retorted. "He's been through more than you can imagine. He deserves a chance." Hemmings scoffed. "Chance to what? Bite somebody? Maul a child? Those dogs are bred for fighting. It's in their blood." Daisy, her patience wearing thin, turned away, her voice laced with disdain. "You're the one who's dangerous, Hemmings, with your closed mind and your ignorant prejudice." The encounter left a bitter taste in Daisy's mouth. She realized that overcoming the stigma surrounding pit bulls would be an uphill battle. But she was determined to fight for Hope, to challenge the stereotypes, to show the community that he was more than just a breed, that he was a loving and loyal companion. Fortunately, not everyone shared Hemmings' narrow-mindedness. A few kind souls, animal lovers themselves, reached out to Daisy, offering support and encouragement. Mrs. Peterson, a retired teacher with a soft spot for strays, brought over a bag of dog toys and a warm sweater for Hope. "Don't let the naysayers get you down, Daisy," she said, her eyes twinkling. "There are those of us who know that a dog's character isn't determined by its breed." Another unexpected ally emerged in the form of young Sarah, a high school student who volunteered at Dr. Carter's clinic. Sarah, passionate about animal rights, was appalled by Hope's story and eager to help. She visited the farm regularly, spending hours playing with Hope, teaching him tricks, and showering him with affection. "He's such a sweetheart," she'd gush to Daisy, her face beaming. "He just wants to love and be loved." Daisy, her heart warmed by Sarah's enthusiasm and Hope's growing confidence, realized that she wasn't alone in this fight. There were others who believed in Hope, who saw beyond the stereotypes, who recognized the inherent worth of a creature that had been so cruelly mistreated. And together they would challenge the prejudice, advocate for change, and show the community that Hope, like any dog, deserved a chance at a happy life. The support from Mrs. Peterson and Sarah was a balm to Daisy's soul. She realized that while some clung to their prejudices, others were open to seeing Hope for who he truly was. This realization sparked an idea, a way to challenge the negativity and perhaps even change some hearts and minds. With Sarah's youthful energy and tech savviness, they created a Facebook page dedicated to Hope. They shared photos of him playing in the fields, snuggled up with Daisy by the fireplace, and enjoying his newfound freedom. They wrote about his gentle nature, his playful spirit, and his remarkable resilience in overcoming his traumatic past. The response was surprising. People from all over the county, and even beyond, started following Hope's page. They left encouraging comments, shared their own stories of beloved pit bulls, and expressed their admiration for Daisy's compassion. One commenter, a woman named Lisa, reached out to Daisy directly. Lisa was a dog trainer specializing in rehabilitating dogs with troubled pasts. She offered her services free of charge, eager to help Hope overcome his lingering anxieties and become a confident, well-adjusted dog. Lisa's visits to the farm became a weekly highlight. She worked with Hope patiently, using positive reinforcement techniques to build his confidence and trust. She taught him new commands, helped him overcome his fear of strangers, and showed Daisy how to manage his occasional bouts of anxiety. "He's a smart boy, Daisy," Lisa would say, her voice filled with admiration. "He just needs the right guidance and a lot of love." With Lisa's help, Hope blossomed. He became more relaxed, more playful, more trusting. He'd greet visitors with a wagging tail instead of a cowering posture. He'd walk calmly on a leash, even in the presence of other dogs. He'd even learn to play fetch, his joyful barks echoing across the fields as he chased after the tennis ball. The Facebook page continued to grow, attracting a loyal following of Hope's fans. Daisy and Sarah started organizing meet and greets at the local park, inviting people to come and interact with Hope, to see for themselves that he was a gentle and loving dog, despite his breed and his past. The events were a success. Families with children, elderly couples, even a few skeptical townsfolk came to meet Hope. They were charmed by his playful antics, his gentle demeanor, his eagerness for affection. Many left with tears in their eyes, their hearts touched by his story, their perceptions challenged. Daisy, watching Hope interact with the community, felt a surge of pride and accomplishment. She had not only given Hope a second chance at life, but had also become an advocate for his breed, a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those who had been unfairly judged and mistreated. And in doing so, she had found a community of her own, a network of like-minded individuals who shared her passion for animal welfare and her belief in the power of compassion to heal even the deepest wounds. The change in Hope was nothing short of remarkable. With each passing day, he shed another layer of fear, replaced by a growing confidence and a playful spirit that warmed Daisy's heart. He'd bound through the fields with an energy she hadn't seen before, chasing butterflies, rolling in the grass, his joyful barks echoing across the Montana landscape. His interactions with people transformed as well. No longer cowering or flinching, he'd greet visitors with a wagging tail and a hopeful gaze, eager for a friendly pat or a playful scratch behind the ears. He'd even learned to sit patiently for treats, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. Lisa, the dog trainer, was amazed by his progress. "He's a natural," she'd exclaim, beaming with pride. "He's eager to please, eager to learn. He just needed the right environment and a lot of love." Hope's transformation extended beyond his behavior. His physical appearance underwent a noticeable change as well. His coat, once dull and matted, now gleamed with health, the result of good food, regular grooming, and plenty of sunshine. His muscles, once atrophied from neglect, now rippled beneath his skin, a testament to his newfound energy and vitality. Even his eyes, once clouded with fear and suspicion, now sparkled with joy and affection. They held a depth of emotion that spoke volumes about his journey, his resilience, his capacity for love and forgiveness. One evening, as Daisy sat by the fireplace, reading aloud from her favorite book of poetry, Hope rested his head on her lap, his warm body a comforting weight. He gazed up at her with an expression of pure adoration, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames, his tail thumping gently against the floor. Daisy, her heart overflowing with love for this remarkable creature, reached down and stroked his head, her fingers tracing the contours of his scars, each one a reminder of his painful past. "You're a miracle, Hope," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, a testament to the enduring spirit of these magnificent creatures. Hope, as if understanding her words, licked her hand, his rough tongue a gesture of gratitude and affection. He snuggled closer, his body radiating warmth and contentment. In that moment, Daisy realized that Hope had not only healed from his past, but had also healed a part of her own heart, a part that had been closed off by years of loneliness and isolation. He had brought joy, laughter, and a renewed sense of purpose into her life. He had shown her the true meaning of unconditional love and the transformative power of compassion. And as she gazed into his eyes, she knew that their journey together was far from over. They had much more to learn from each other, much more to share, much more to give. They were, in essence, a testament to the enduring bond between humans and animals, a bond that could transcend even the darkest of pasts and pave the way for a brighter future. Hope's story, shared through his Facebook page and the meet and greets at the park, began to ripple through the community. The initial skepticism and fear gradually gave way to curiosity, then admiration, and finally, for some, a newfound understanding. Daisy, emboldened by the positive response, decided to take her advocacy further. She partnered with Sarah and Lisa to organize educational programs at the local schools, sharing Hope's story and teaching children about responsible dog ownership. They brought Hope along, his gentle demeanor and playful antics captivating the young audiences. They explained the importance of understanding dog body language, the dangers of teasing or provoking dogs, and the responsibility that comes with caring for a pet. Hope's story teaches us that every dog deserves a chance. Daisy would say, her voice filled with conviction. It's not about the breed, it's about how they're raised and treated. The children, their eyes wide with wonder, listened intently, petting Hope's soft fur, giggling at his playful nudges. They asked questions, eager to learn more about this dog who had overcome so much. Was Hope really a fighting dog? One boy asked, his voice filled with concern. He was forced to fight, Daisy explained gently. But that's not his true nature. He's a loving and gentle dog who just wants to be happy. The children, their hearts touched by Hope's story, left the presentations with a newfound respect for pit bulls and a commitment to treat all animals with kindness. Daisy and her team also organized community events, inviting local dog trainers, veterinarians, and animal welfare advocates to speak about responsible dog ownership, breed-neutral legislation, and the importance of spaying and neutering. They set up information booths at the farmers market, distributing brochures, answering questions, and dispelling myths about pit bulls. They even organized a doggy fun day at the park with games, contests, and demonstrations, showcasing the intelligence and agility of various breeds, including Hope, who proudly demonstrated his newfound obedience skills. The events were a resounding success, attracting large crowds and generating positive media coverage. The community, once divided by fear and prejudice, began to unite around a shared love for animals and a commitment to responsible pet ownership. Even Old Man Hemmings, the most vocal critic of Hope's presence in the community, underwent a surprising transformation. He attended one of the events, drawn by curiosity and perhaps a twinge of guilt. He watched Hope interact with children, his tail wagging, his eyes sparkling with joy. He saw the love and respect Hope received from Daisy and the community. After the event, Hemmings approached Daisy, his face etched with a mix of emotions. I was wrong about that dog, Daisy," he mumbled, his voice gruff but sincere. "He's a good boy." Daisy, her heart filled with a quiet triumph, smiled warmly. "Thank you, Hemmings," she said. "It means a lot to hear you say that." Hope, sensing the shift in the old man's demeanor, approached him cautiously, his tail wagging tentatively. Hemmings, with a hesitant smile, reached out and patted Hope's head, his rough hand gentle on the dog's soft fur. In that moment, a bridge was built, a prejudice overcome, a heart opened, and Hope, the dog who had once been a symbol of fear and misunderstanding, became a catalyst for change, a beacon of hope for a community learning to embrace compassion and understanding. Hope's story, now a local legend, reached beyond the confines of their small Montana town. A young family, the Millers, living in a bustling city several hours away, stumbled upon his Facebook page. They were captivated by his journey, his resilience, and his infectious joy. The Millers had been considering adopting a dog for some time, their two young children, Emily and Ben, eager for a furry companion. They had initially envisioned a playful puppy, but Hope's story touched their hearts. They saw in him a gentle soul, a loving companion, a dog who deserved a second chance at a happy family life. They contacted Daisy, expressing their interest in adopting Hope. Daisy, though overjoyed at the prospect of Hope finding a loving home, felt a pang of sadness at the thought of parting with her beloved companion. He had become such an integral part of her life, her confidant, her furry soulmate. She invited the Millers to the farm, eager to see how they interacted with Hope. The meeting was a heartwarming success. Emily and Ben, their eyes shining with excitement, showered Hope with affection, giggling as he chased them through the fields, his tail wagging furiously. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, impressed by Hope's gentle demeanor and his obvious bond with Daisy, assured her that he would be cherished in their home. They described their spacious backyard, their love for long walks in the park, and their commitment to providing Hope with a safe and loving environment. Daisy, her heart filled with a mix of joy and sadness, knew that this was the best thing for Hope. He deserved a family, a home filled with laughter and playful energy, a life beyond the quiet solitude of the farm. She spent the next few days preparing for Hope's departure. She packed his favorite toys, his comfy bed, his well-worn leash. She baked him a special batch of dog biscuits, his favorite treat. And she wrote a heartfelt letter to the Millers, sharing Hope's story, his quirks, his anxieties, and his boundless capacity for love. The day of Hope's departure arrived, a bittersweet occasion filled with tears and hugs. Daisy knelt beside Hope, her arms wrapped around his neck, her voice trembling as she whispered her farewell. "You've brought so much joy into my life, Hope," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'll miss you terribly, but I know you'll be happy with your new family." Hope, sensing her sadness, licked away her tears, his warm body pressed against hers. He seemed to understand, his eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and reassurance. As the Millers drove away, Hope's head poking out the window, his tail wagging excitedly, Daisy watched with a heavy heart. But amidst the sadness, she felt a profound sense of peace. She had given Hope a second chance at life, had helped him heal, had shown him the true meaning of love and compassion. And now, he was embarking on a new chapter, a chapter filled with the promise of family, laughter, and a lifetime of adventures. Life on the farm returned to its quiet rhythm, but something was undeniably different. The absence of Hope's playful energy left a void, a quiet echo in the once bustling barn. Daisy missed his warm presence by the fireplace, his joyful barks greeting her at the door, the comforting weight of his head on her lap as she read in the evenings. Yet, amidst the sadness, there was a profound sense of peace. Daisy knew Hope was thriving in his new home. The Millers sent regular updates, sharing photos and stories of his adventures. He had become an integral part of their family, accompanying them on hikes, playing fetch in the park, and snuggling with the children on the couch. Hope's story continued to ripple through the community. The educational programs and events had left a lasting impact, fostering a greater understanding of pit bulls and promoting responsible dog ownership. The local shelter even reported an increase in adoptions of bully breeds, a testament to the shift in perception. Daisy, inspired by Hope's journey, became a passionate advocate for animal welfare. She volunteered at the shelter, fostering dogs with troubled pasts, helping them heal and find loving homes. She continued to speak at schools and community events, sharing Hope's story, challenging stereotypes, and encouraging compassion towards all creatures. One sunny afternoon, while volunteering at the shelter, Daisy encountered a familiar sight, a timid pit bull, its eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. The dog had been rescued from a neglectful situation, its body bearing the marks of abuse. Daisy, her heart aching for the creature, felt a familiar tug, call to action. She approached the dog cautiously, offering a gentle touch and a reassuring voice. The dog, hesitant at first, slowly responded, its tail giving a tentative wag. "It's all right," Daisy whispered, her voice filled with compassion. "You're safe now." She took the dog home, providing it with a warm bed, a nourishing meal, and a safe haven. She named her Grace, a symbol of the resilience and forgiveness she saw in the dog's eyes. Grace, like Hope before her, blossomed under Daisy's care. She shed her fear, revealing a playful and affectionate nature. She became Daisy's shadow, accompanying her on walks, snuggling by the fireplace, and filling the void left by Hope's departure. And so, life on the farm continued, a testament to the enduring power of compassion, the transformative power of second chances, and the legacy of hope that one extraordinary pit bull had left behind.